Solar flares are already known to be capable of damaging satellites, communications networks, and power grids on Earth by sending streams of high-energy particles across the solar system. Now scientists warn we may also be in danger from another potentially far more devastating phenomenon, the solar superflare. Astrophysicists estimate such a superflare could unleash unprecedented energy, and the researcher told this could be the equivalent to 100 billion megaton bombs. With power 1,000 times that of an ordinary solar flare, a superflare could have devastating consequences on the ground as well as for satellites and astronauts. What are solar storms? Solar storms are eruptions on the Sun causing the emission of huge quantities of particles. If they hit Earth, the particles interact with Earth's magnetic field, which guides them towards polar areas where they cause northern or southern lights, auroras. There have been major solar storms in recent years leading to power outages, such as the one in October 2003 in Sweden and in March 1989 in Canada. The extreme solar storms that scientists now have seen traces of in ice cores were at least 10 times larger than those observed in recent decades. They concluded these were caused by magneto-hydrodynamic oscillations. These oscillations are frequently observed in solar flares, suggesting that the same physical processes are involved. This supports the hypothesis that the Sun is able to produce a potentially devastating superflare, said Dr. Broomhall. While a solar flare from our Sun typically releases the same amount of energy as 100 million megaton bombs, a superflare can release the equivalent of a billion megaton bombs. However, the scientists insist there is no need to panic. The star KIC 9655129, unlike our Sun, is a binary object with two stars orbiting each other, so may have some distinct differences that trigger these solar flares. Ms. Pugh added, if the Sun were to produce a superflare, it would be disastrous for life on Earth. Our GPS and radio communication systems could be severely disrupted and there could be large-scale power blackouts as a result of strong electrical currents being induced in power grids. Fortunately, the conditions needed for a superflare are extremely unlikely to occur on the Sun, based on previous observations of solar activity. The world will have just 12 hours warning if the Sun erupts. The world will get just 12 hours warning if a huge explosion of high-energy particles from the surface of the Sun heads our way, a recent report has cautioned. A plan to help prepare for major bursts of space weather has been published by the British government, outlining what needs to be done to cope with such an event. It says that a massive solar phenomenon would disrupt transport networks, cause blackouts, and disrupt satellites. The report warns that GPS systems could go down for up to 3 days at a time, leaving train networks and shipping badly affected. While mobile phones and landlines are expected to be unaffected, satellite communication and high-frequency radio communication used by shipping and aircraft could also go down for several days. Power grids could also be affected, leading to blackouts in some areas. The document warns that the most harmful element of severe space weather is a major coronal mass ejection, where huge eruptions blast high-energy particles out into space. It also warns that major solar flares caused by a buildup of magnetic energy that releases blasts of radiation across the solar system, can also pose a risk. The report states, space weather results from solar activity. Solar activity can produce X-rays, high-energy particles and coronal mass ejections of plasma. Where such activity is directed towards Earth, there is the potential to cause wide-ranging impacts. These include power loss, aviation disruption, communication loss, and disturbance to, or loss, of satellite systems.